Sorry, folks, I had to delete the first video, but I'll try and repeat exactly what I was doing. Cousin, thank you so much for letting me know that the camera was twisted. I had a badibunka moment over there. But like I said, I was driving all day today. It's a day off. And in the process, you know, when I stopped to eat and when I should listen to the radios, there was a lot of conversation about this huge tribe issue that is supposedly brewing in our country. And I've always argued that I would never address this, that I don't think it's an issue. But I think it is time that we take this very seriously and start addressing it like we address the dictatorship in the country. Because if you ask me, I don't think the Gambia has any tribal problems or issues. I am from Basse Santasu. It's a melting pot. I don't know a single friend of mine that is pure Mandinka, pure Fula, or pure Wolof. And I think many of us, if we look at that, we will find out that that is true in our case. And if you look at how we live in the Gambia, there is nothing like a Mandinka section, a Fula section, a Wolof section. There's nothing like a Fula school, a Mandinka school, or a Mandinka hospital. For the first 30 years of our life in the country, since we got independence, tribes lived without any problem in the country. The PPP regime did an excellent job to set the foundation of our nation. And we were unfortunate that a dictatorship came in. And when that happened, just like dictators normally do, they destroyed all the foundation that was laid by our founders. And each time, Yaya looked at how to oppress us further. He looked at issues that could divide us more. He tried the religious route, that he didn't succeed. He tried all other methods, and his final ploy was the tribal lines. And he started succeeding until he made it obvious and insulted the Mandinkas. And Gambians rose up and condemned Yaya. So today, we find ourselves in a situation where the Gambians have gotten rid of their biggest problem. At a time when we're supposed to celebrate our nation, as a group of people that fought a dictatorship, a clean fight, without bloodshed, without war, we brought down one of the most powerful dictators on the face of this earth. When we're supposed to be proud and talk about how to move forward as a nation, when we're supposed to talk about jobs, when we're supposed to talk about development, we find ourselves talking about tribe. But what is most disturbing is the fact that we have young Gambians that are supposed to be the future of this nation caught up in this whole conversation about the tribal issue that we're faced with. And I've had some private discussions with many of you, and I keep emphasizing, we don't have a tribal issue in the country. We have an economic issue. But what is most disturbing is these people that talk about this tribe issue in the country. Many of them, I have to admit, are educated. When they argue in most cases, they tend to go by facts, statistics. Now, our country don't have the best statistics, one can say, or our record keeping is pretty bad. But I challenge any Gambian who can really give me a consistency of a hate crime happening based on tribal lines in that country. And like I said, I've witnessed some of the toughest political battles in the Bassa area. My father was a politician for the longest, and I've been privy to some of the conversations of how politics works. But one thing I know was that they respected each other, the candidates, the people. Things get heated. I've seen situations where people bought cutlasses to go to campaigns. I've seen people fought. But those were never translated as tribal issues. It was the heat of the moment. And when it ended, it was over. Our parents lived a decent life. They built an excellent foundation for our country and for us individually. It is indeed a shame that we young Gambians have found ourselves in a situation where we have to talk about a non-issue, an issue that will divide us as a people, an issue that will distract us as a people, an issue that has no place in our conversation. That young Gambians can spend 2 or 3 hours talking about how divided we are, how we're heading for a civil war, how Mandinkas I tread, how Jolas I tread, without any evidence. And I've told you guys, do an exercise. Take a piece of paper, write about all the hate crimes you know in the Gambia that were based strictly on tribal lines, and see what you come up with. Look at your circle of friends, where you live in the Gambia, and tell me that it's predominantly white people. I mean, Mandinkas, or Wolofs, or Fulanis. Now, the argument has been made that this last presidential election that we voted on tribal lines. Listen, folks, throw me any topic, and I'll find a way to debate on the other side. But if you really check me, I will not be making a lot of sense. So the people that are saying that we have a race problem, or the few people that are out there trying to scare people, ought to be challenged. Let them come and give us concrete facts that it is not just 2 political parties clashing and a couple of people getting injured. That it's the APRC and the UDP clashing. That is a political fight. It's a political issue. It has nothing to do with tribe. They're saying that in Baribu, they voted UDP because they're Mandinkas. Fulanis voted for Kande. And Jolas voted for Yaya. So you're telling me that we have enough Jolas in that country to keep Yaya in power for 22 years? If we were so tribalist, if we were divided in tribal lines, how can that happen? Most Mandinka men are married to Wolofs Fulanis. Most Fulanis are married to Mandinkas. Are we sure this is a conversation we really want to have? Are we sure this is a route we really want to go? To destroy the fabric of our country? Ladies and gentlemen, what we have as young Gambians is an economic problem. We had a government that came into place immediately after independence. They did an excellent job and laid the foundation to our nation. They didn't have much, but they had a vision. Yes, it was a corrupt regime, but the fact was they respected our rights. 30 or so years ago, we were unfortunate the dictatorship came in and they took over. And Yaya did a very good job in destroying the fabric of our nation. Everything else that we could think about, he destroyed it. And he has poisoned our minds. Even those of us that live in the West, even those of us that are supposed to be educated, that are today supposed to be the people that should be looking at the Gambia and say the Gambia has a problem. And the problem is we don't have enough jobs for our graduates. The problem is Yaya Jammeh have taken so much debt. The problem is we don't have any good infrastructure in the country. How do we solve this problem? Where is the conversation? That is what we should ask each other. Where is the conversation where young men and women are supposed to be busy to say, this is what I've learned. That is what I'm going to go take home. Where is the conversation to say, where are the technocrats of this nation? Where are the conversations to say, how can we create jobs? Where's the conversation to say, well, how do we make sure that we have hospitals where somebody can get into a major accident, get treatment into a hospital, and be able to heal in the country without being flown out? Where's the conversation to say, how do we bring back the hundreds of thousands of Gambians that are trapped in Europe, that we see videos of being enslaved? Where is the conversation of sensible, ordinary citizens that are supposed to come together and address a problem? When are we Gambians going to understand that our grandparents died in poverty? They died and never saw 24-hour electricity. Our parents, the same thing. And here we are in this day and age, where when you look around, you see other nations. Senegalese people, Senegal has more tribes than us, a lot more people than us. But race has never been a problem there. Because you know why? Because their young refused it to be a problem. Because Senegalese people think they have a much bigger problem. We should look at the models of other nations. Our education should be based on the fact that we should study other nations. How is Senegal so developed right now? Why is it that the average Senegalese do have some kind of an occupation? Was that somebody else's vision? How do we make sure that when kids graduate out of college, that they can get jobs? How do we create jobs within the current structure that is over there? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a moment where Gambians should have been very proud of themselves. We should have been proud of the fact that we, Gambians, were unfortunate enough to get a dictatorship in our lives. And we came together and got rid of it. But today, it is very unfortunate that educated Gambians in the diaspora who are exposed to the modern world, who are exposed to development, who are supposed to be thinking about how to take this development here and take it back home. So that when you go on vacation, you will not be threatened by a simple illness. Or you won't be scared to take your kids because in the middle of summer because it's too hot and there's malaria. Food, feeding. How do we make sure we get good quality food? How do we make sure that the cost of living is brought down to where people can afford it? Because without good living, you don't have good health care. To me, this is what I worry about every day. I love the challenge of having to sit across a table with young Gambians thinking about how to solve an issue. That is why I got into a fight of what we were fighting. To me, it was a challenge. It was about somebody taking my right. And today, our right to live with dignity in our country has been taken away because the average Gambian cannot afford a good living. Today, our right to be able to live in our own country and enjoy 24-hour electricity has been taken away. What are you going to do about it? Our right to good education, basic education, has been taken away. What is wrong with citizens sitting together and say, how do we make sure that every citizen in the Gambia or every young man and woman is able to go to primary school, secondary school, college, so that they can be a productive member of society? Where's that conversation? This is, to me, what it really matters. Because we have to build our home. When we sit here 10, 15 years, we work so hard, we take $20,000, $30,000 home and we blow it. Because it's much more fun and sweeter to spend your money in your own home than here. Many of us are sitting on lots of money here, but we can't enjoy it. It's much better when you enjoy it back home, in front of your people. This is where our minds should be. Our minds are not supposed to be wasted on simple arguments. Yes, we do have a tribe problem. No, we don't have a tribe problem. This is it. A couple of incidences. People fighting here and there. And we call that problem. Nobody can give me any form of statistics or any kind of trend to show that there is a problem there. The little bullyings that we went through in our schools, that idiot at the street corner or in the neighborhood that had a bitter experience. We're all a bunch of poor people sitting together, waiting for death in the Gambia. No health care, no education, no good roads. When you get out, you don't know if you're going to get into an accident. If you get into an accident, your first worries is how to fly out of the country. Our parents get old, the first thing we think about is to get them out of the country so that they can come get medical treatment here. When do we Gambians have to work to get the dignity of making sure that our country is developed? When do we work to set that foundation that our forefathers had set, which Yahya destroyed? To me, I think that it should be our challenge. As this generation that was able to get rid of a dictator, so that people can look back and say there were a group of Gambians or a generation that fought dictatorship, that brought about the necessary change, that built hospitals, that created jobs. To this day, I have not heard a discussion where Gambians are sitting together thinking about how to create a job. I haven't heard the conversation. But we do a lot of other things. We're so busy doing unnecessary things. It's a shame. Because something tells me that there's decent Gambians out there that want to do this work. Because as hard as it is, we have shown that we can do better. Because once you get us out of that environment, we become some of the most successful people outside. But throw us back home, we can't function. Or we can't stay there too long. We either go broke or we get sick and we run away. When do we, the fortunate ones, the educated ones, start thinking, what am I going to do in this lifetime to bring about the necessary change in my country? Because folks, see, we have a small window of opportunity. Just like our grandparents did, our fathers did, we also have a very small window of opportunity. And if we don't, the future is going to pay for it. We should be busy thinking about setting up a foundation that we're not going to enjoy. Because when I drive on those freeways here in Los Angeles, the people that build them are nowhere. They're dead. But every once in a while you drive, you see the name of a person. Something highway, a short highway. When I read about Los Angeles, I read about citizens that made a difference. Their mayors, their governors, their House of Representatives. That is what life is supposed to be. When you're lucky to have a little bit of education, when you're lucky to be outside to taste what freedom is, to taste what development is, you see it, you get exposed, you take it back home. Or you get on the airwave and you talk about it. Back then we were fighting, we had to be negative because the dictator was nasty. But the dictator is gone. He's sitting in Equatorial New Guinea watching us. And the world is watching us. And we in the diaspora, we're so busy attacking. We attacked the PPP regime and said they were corrupt. We attacked Jammeh and said that he was a dictator. Yes, he was a dictator. He was a nasty one. And now we're attacking this government. When do we Gambians get to understand that it takes hard work, it takes time, it takes dedication, and it takes a positive conversation, positive thinking, challenging one another to bring about the necessary change in our country? Maybe I'm the twisted one, but this is what gets me going. This is why I fought so hard, because I couldn't, as a person, look at myself and say, I cannot live in my own country. The threat is gone, but a new threat is there, and that is the economic threat. Because with all this religious challenges that you're seeing in the Gambia, with all this tribal discussion that you're seeing in the Gambia, it is because we have a major, major problem, and that is an economic problem. Because many of us are Muslims. When we work 8 hours, we come home, we get stuck in traffic. When we get home, we want to cook dinner, pray, and then go to bed because we're so tired. You don't even have time to engage in the foolish stuff. But when you're sitting every day, you don't have a job, you have nothing but to brew attire, that person that passes by looks at you funny, all of a sudden it's a problem. That is what our problem is. Our problem is an economic problem. And the sooner Gambians understand that once we address the problem, once we address our economic problem, then everything else will take care of itself. Because we don't have a tribal problem. And that's why you see all these masallas coming over there. All of a sudden, our whole judgment is clouded with religion or with tribe. We're looking at negative stuff. We're constantly looking at what is wrong. We're constantly in little corners. We're constantly talking about problems that are brewing with our facts. So to those of you that are having this whole tribe discussion, you have to do a couple of things for us. Give us facts that there's a tribal issue, a problem in the country. I mean facts. You don't, all you talk about is little incidents. It's like today my kid comes home and says that he's bullied. I live in Los Angeles where it's predominantly Hispanic. Do I just conclude that it's a racist school? Do I conclude that the kid that this person comes in contact with is because of race? Kids do that. Many of us went through that. And that is going to continue to happen in our neighborhoods. But look at where you live. Look at your friends, the people you know. Look at your own household. And you will know that we don't have a tribe problem. Because we intermarry, we live together. You don't go to a hospital, they say, you're Mandinka, you can't come here. That is what a tribal problem is. Now, I know there's this fear that, yes, we need to address it because it's brewing. No, it's not. We cannot have a nation or a president that continues to put out little fires. Wherever there's a fire, you jump. Wherever there's a fire, you jump. When we have a problem, we will all know that we have a problem. So I challenge those of you who are supposedly so educated that this government doesn't know what they're doing, or they're so slow. What are you doing to make sure that when they get out, or what are you doing to make sure you get them out? Because if you're going to come also in government and start talking about negative stuff, then maybe you don't belong there too. If you're so busy criticizing people, what are you doing, really? We've gone through this. This is the same thing we went through when we were fighting the dictator. People that were working very hard were being accused on baseless accusations just to find out that it's not true. Ladies and gentlemen, we should be busy telling our leaders to stop deceiving the electorates. We should be busy telling our leaders to come up with 5-year, 10-year plans. We should be busy engaging these political parties to come up with plans of what they have, the future they have. If they don't have it, let's form our own. If you don't want to form your own, go join them. See what you can do to help them come up with a plan. Every employer that you have, everybody that works here, you work for a company that has a budget. You work for a company that has policies and procedures. You are part of a system that works. That is what we should use. It's simple. But we cannot be just sitting, pretending like we're the most educated, pretending like we can speak the best English, pretending like we're the ones that can tell what the future looks like. I tell you what the future is. It's right here. It's about making it. You make the future in the present. You make the future in the present. If we want a better Gambia tomorrow or 5 years from now, we start it now. We don't have educated Gambian citizens talking about what they think is going to happen, talking about the problems. Let's talk about how to solve these problems. And like I said, maybe I'm the twisted one. I want to challenge leaders out there. I want to see what they have. I'm quiet, but I will be active again. When I sit for a year, 2 years, and I don't see what my government is putting into place, when I don't see packages of how to create employment, then I'll be active again. But for right now, we came together to get rid of a dictator. We got rid of a dictator. We entrusted our nation with a group of people. As slow as they're going, it has only been 3 months. What can you do in 3 months? When Obama took over, the same thing. He took over from George Bush. Companies were bankrupting like crazy. Banks were closing. Mortgages going down the tube. He had to steady the wrecking train before he can turn it around. This regime, that's what they're doing. And like I said, many of us today are not willing to leave what we have here today to go home. But we're quick to criticize. So I challenge all of you guys. And I think this is the time that some of us that truly believe that there's no issues, that people are just trying to make up things, for fear that if they keep pushing this negative crap, that it will catch on, need to speak up. We don't have a tribal problem in the Gambia. We have an economic problem. When you solve that, when you build roads, you build hospitals, you build good schools, you give people education, you give them jobs, believe me, they'll be worried about something else other than what tribe anybody is, or how you pray, or which side you face, or how you do anything. At that point, it will be more about personal development, because I think that is also part of religion. But we're so busy as to who knows the religion more, or who can talk more about the religion, or who can predict the future about the tribal issue, or who can predict that this government doesn't know what they're doing, than sitting and saying, what should be done? I work in the healthcare industry. What do I make sure, or how do I make sure that the hospitals in the Gambia is as clean as this hospital? How do we make sure we create those banks, that healthcare bank, where every citizen that works in the healthcare industry, when you go on vacation, you can volunteer 1 or 2 days, that you can go teach a young Gambian something about healthcare. That you work in a company that has policies and procedures, that you can go and have a conversation, or you can mentor a young man or woman, or you can support them. When do we build these systems? That is the real question, if you ask me. Because you look at the average Gambian, every city you go to, you'll be impressed. But you go home, you see a big mansion, next to it, water puddle. Everything is just chaos development. How do we change that? How do we make sure that when it rains, the sewage is not going to come up on our people working in it? How do you make sure that when you build that big mansion, that when your child gets out to play, that the neighbor's child, that poor child, also has health care, because if not, your child is going to get sick? How do we understand that if that child, that neighbor doesn't have a good education, that my child can never also prosper? Or if my child prospers, this neighborhood is going to stay the same. These should be our challenges. These should be things we should talk about, but not to spend hours talking about. We do have a problem, accusing each other of tribalism, saying that people are not hiring the right way when you are not going to leave this sweet, beautiful America to go home. I don't know about you guys. I think it's a little too quick. When change happens, the change that happened in our country, nobody was predicting that it was going to happen. If you predicted, I can easily call you somebody who's not factual, because nobody ever thought we would beat Yaya this quick. There was hope, but if you were to bet your last penny on it, you would not have done it. So now we've got that change. Our work is cut out for us, folks. If we do it, we might see the benefit of it. And there's nothing wrong. Just like how proud you were, how proud Gambians were when we beat Yaya. that sweet feeling, that success feeling, that feeling of conquering something big, that you can also sit on your retirement chair and say, you know what, that hospital over there, I remember when we started talking about it. Today, it's one of the best hospitals in the country. That is success. Success is not about setting up something to scare the people. We need to use our mediums. We need to use our resources. We need to use our education. We need to use our being to be able to do something productive. That's what we do. We build this country. We're making people millionaires and billionaires over here. Why can't we go do the same over there? Should be the discussion. I don't know about you guys. I would love to have the rest of my life to do nothing but to think about how I can develop my nation. It's a challenge. It's a nice challenge to sit with your people and see what can we do. How can you do to better a marketplace to make sure there's not a lot of flies on that food that you're going to go give your family to eat? To make sure when you go to that hospital, you're not seeing that person dying on the floor. Dignity. Anybody who's been to the Gambia and you see people laying on the floor, you should feel guilty, because it is also your responsibility, just like it is the government's responsibility. So this is my discussion about this whole tribe thing. It doesn't exist. Our threat is an economic threat. When we address it, we will see a lot of our problems gone. If we keep this discussion about tribe, we will learn the hard way. And when we get into a tribal war, many of us will not leave to tell what it looks like. So thank you all very much. And sorry I had to delete the first video because it was kind of twisted. Like I said, that was a Badibunka moment there. But folks, the conversation needs to change. And the diaspora have shown that we can change the conversation, because we did an excellent job to expose Yaya. Let's do an excellent job to expose our problems so that we can fix that too. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you.